Hi, hello, how are you? I'm Pia and today we're doing my November and December wrap up. So I will be getting back to my normal monthly wrap-ups. I got very caught up in Vlogmas, which no one watched, but it doesn't matter, and that was like a big to-do, so I just didn't end up doing a November wrap-up, so we're gonna put it all together. If you want to like be up to date on all of my reading things, you can follow me on Goodreads or friend me on Goodreads. I read 12 books in the month of November and 24 books I think in December. So I'm going to, as always, go in the order in which I read these, give you my review, my star rating, all those things. Yeah, let's get into it. The first book that I read during the month of November was The Song of Achilles. I read this for my book talk video where I basically like reacted to book talk, read some popular books from there. So the first one I read was The Song of Achilles. Unfortunately, this didn't really do a lot for me. This is a retelling of Iliad, which I personally have never read, but it's basically about Achilles and Patroclus. Oh my gosh. It's been a while since I read it. It's about them from like childhood to adulthood, and they're going through like the Trojan War and things like that, and they have this beautiful bond and relationship, but it's also very like fractured and very like human and has lots of problems as well. I thought it was good. I just didn't think like a lot of the like war stuff like really kind of lost me. Just there was a big chunk of it that I didn't really care about. I think that like the characters were really strong, but I wasn't too invested in the story. So I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. Then I DNF'd a book. This is all for that video. The Spanish Love Deception. I was so excited about this book because it's like enemies to lovers, it's fake dating, it's got like everything you want in a book, but it is unbearably long for a contemporary romance. It's like almost 500 pages, and as someone that reads a lot of contemporary romance, that is abnormal, and it was excessive. Like, we took 100 pages to like establish the plot. Like, it took so long for these characters to like understand anything. The characters themselves were so like immature. I could not get through this book. I read a lot of it. Let's see, I read 35%, but like lordy, and like in the part I read, like I wasn't invested, and I just sorry. I'm sorry if this is your favorite book, because obviously a lot of people love it, but a lot better romances out there. So then I read The Cruel Prince. I finally read this book after, oh god, when did this even come out? Because I remember when it came out, and I was like, and I remember when people got the arcs of this book, and I was like, ooh, and then people were loving it. It came out in 2018, so it's been that long. So I read it, and I don't understand. It was good. I think like it was, if you didn't know what The Cruel Prince is about, I really doubt that you don't. It's about this girl and her sisters who, her sisters are like half fae, and they get basically like abducted and taken back to the fae world, but the main character is like human. Her sisters have powers and stuff, and then there's like this political kind of thing going on. I don't get the hype around this one. I really don't understand like why people are swooning so much over the romance. Like there's like a smidgen of romance, like maybe about the, I don't know. It was really strange. So I think it's more interesting as a story of like kind of like Stockholm syndrome. Like I feel like the processes and like the narrative of the main character was a lot more interesting than the story. Like, what is she going through? Like, I want to know her internal turmoil. I give it 2 stars. Then I read The Inheritance Games. Oh my gosh, finally a book I liked. This is so much fun. Basically how I was pitched this is it's basically Knives Out but young adult. There's like a love triangle. It's so fun. This is like one of the most fun books I have read in a long time, and like I haven't read such a like a fun like wholehearted YA in so long, and this really made me be like, oh my god, I should read more YA. A girl who just like randomly inherits this estate and all this cash money from this like hugely wealthy man and his family. So the family is all like really pissed at her, and she's like, well, I didn't even know him, so like what the frick. Oh my god, I just remembered the twist at the end, and I was like, oh. Yeah, I mean, it's like super dramatic, and like I can't describe it anything else than fun. I don't know, I don't think you need to take it really seriously. I mean, there's twists and turns that are really fun, but nothing like super outlandish, like nothing I wasn't really expecting, but that's just kind of like how I am with books. Like I said, there is like a love triangle, which I liked both love interests, so I was kind of chill with, and there's like more books and I just can't read. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I'm so excited to read the rest of the books. I think it was so fun. Read it. Then I DNF'd another book. This is called Rosalie Palmer Takes the Cake. I was really excited about this because like I really love this new like kind of trope almost of these like baking show romances, which I love. Like I had that idea of more than a few months ago, and then they all started coming out, and I was like, oh, I have a profitable idea. Hello. So I read this one, or I read some of this one. This again was super long, like unreasonably so. Really excited about it because we have a single mom main character. She's also bi. She's entering this baking competition, which is so fun. There were some things that really rubbed me the wrong way. Obviously, I said it was really long and really drawn out, so it made it really dull. I didn't feel the connection between the characters, the love interest and the main character. There's also fat phobia, which I'm like, we're in 2021. That is not acceptable. And not like, especially when it's not challenged. Like, no thank you. Okay, sorry, see ya. Then I read a fantastic book and I really want to own it. I don't own it. Then I read How to Fail at Flirting. I loved this book. I read a lot of romance, as you can tell, but I think that there are certain things that make a romance book stand out to me just because I read so many, and that is usually when it has more like hard-hitting elements to it and it's a lot deeper, I guess, than just like fluffy and fun, which are also like fun, like they have their place in time, but this one definitely was on like the other end of the spectrum. It was really like hard hitting. We have a main character who has dealt with an incredibly abusive and toxic relationship, and she's really haunted by this, especially since this person is now kind of re-emerging in her life and kind of trying to fuck it up, while she's also trying to explore this new relationship with this other guy. The relationship right off the bat, like I read the first chapter and I was like, I literally want to see these two people get married. Like that is how great their chemistry just like pops off the page. I feel like I don't say a lot because a complaint I have a lot is like, you know, I didn't feel the connection between the two characters, but these ones, like right off the bat, I was like, I love them. And our main character is so strong. She goes through such an incredible journey as a character, as like a woman of color in academic field. Like so much is happening. It's so beautiful and so great. And like I said, there are obviously some really heavy topics, so please tread with caution if any of those sound triggering to you. Like I said, physical abuse and abusive relationships are those content warnings that I do want to make you aware of. With that being said, it was a fantastic book. I would definitely say this is great for fans of The Flatshare, which, you know, is like one of my favorite books. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it was incredible. Then I read another great book. I read Never Saw You Coming by Erin Hahn. It was my 3rd Erin Hahn book. I think this is solidified. I love Erin Hahn. I love her with all my heart. This was a book I had no really interest of reading. The only real reason I read it is because it's Erin Hahn. It's a YA. It's kind of a companion to her last book called More Than Maybe. Following a different character. It's following Meg, and she is going kind of on this journey. She has just learned that like her father is not actually her father, and her really conservative and religious mother had her, you know, out of wedlock with this guy. She's trying to connect with this part of her family that she didn't even know existed, and through that trying to kind of find herself and is struggling with a lot of things, especially with religion and identity and how those two kind of form together, as well as like sexuality. It was very interesting. Like I don't read a lot of like religious-y books, and I wouldn't label this as a religious book, but as someone who's not religious, I just wasn't interested in that story. I hadn't really ever gone through that struggle, but I felt like I had. Seeing these two characters, we also follow another character named Micah who she meets in this town that she's visiting, and he has incredibly difficult past, has had to grow up really fast and be the head of his household, and is also having his own kind of turmoil and struggle with religion. It's a really lovely book and so touching, and like I don't want to say like educated me on something that I didn't really know a lot about, but like such a different type of story and such a different premise, and I think it was great, and it was done really well. I think I cried. Like it was amazing. I gave it 4 stars. Next up I read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Have I talked about this book a lot? I feel like I do. I call this book One Last Flop. It didn't do anything for me. It really didn't. I gave this 2 stars. Is that a generous 2 stars? Kind of. Was I more interested in the side characters than the actual story? Yes. Was the story thought out at all? No. The plot of this is like, what? And then like the romance isn't even like believable at all. I was just ready for like a fun gay time, and I just like didn't have it. The magic in here like makes no sense. And the story, like I don't even know. I don't know. This one wasn't it, Chief. I'm so sorry. Then I read a graphic novel, and this one, it was called Bingo Love. This is volume 1. I don't know if there are more volumes. I have no idea. This is a really touching, beautiful story about these 2 women who meet when they're like, I'm gonna say in high school or something like that, and they, you know, fall in love and whatever, but they aren't able to be together because of the time period. I think it's like starts off in like the 60s, I want to say, but it's really this like grandmother kind of telling the story of how she loved this woman and she was never able to be with her, and then now later in her life she's, you know, a grandmother, she's, you know, whatever, they meet again and they have this really lovely like kind of short-lived, unfortunately, rekindling of that beautiful love, and it's really nice. I wish there was like more to it in a sense. Like I don't mean like the story isn't there enough, but like I don't know, I would have loved a lot more little things and more like seeing more about the relationship developing and those sorts of things. But I think it was really nice and a really cute queer story, so I give this 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World, the sequel to the first Ariane Dante book, and I didn't like this as much as the first one, unfortunately. I genuinely like adored the first book, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, and I love them so much, and I think that like the struggles and issues that they were covering in the first book really carried over to this one. It's not that it didn't feel necessary, but it almost didn't. Obviously there were some things that were unresolved in the first book, but like I couldn't even tell you what happened in this book. It just kind of continued the relationship, and I think they're beautiful characters and I love them a lot. I don't know. I gave it 3 stars. It was good. Then I read Anne of Green Gables. Oh my gosh, this was a reread for me, obviously. I didn't read this edition, but I just wanted to pull out one that I have. I was gifted this edition by a lovely subscriber. Sending you lots of love. I'm doing a read along for this. I'm reading a book a month. If you want to join me and read it, I will be posting. So in November we read this one, December the sequel, all those things. Anyway, I don't know, what can I say about this? It's my favorite book. I have a lot of editions of it. I have like 10 editions of it, I think. It's my favorite book. It means like absolutely the entire world to me, and you can watch my blog to see my reactions, like all spoilery and things. What else can I say about it? It literally is the story that means the most to me, and I'm really bad at articulating that, but I think Anne is a character that I've had kind of throughout my, I was gonna say adolescence, but like, I don't know, I've like thought about her a lot and growing up and really appreciate her and the story in general. So I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I will continue to read it and reread it and I'm excited to continue with the series. You're reading along with me. Yay! Then I read The Christmas Pact. This is a Audible original. This is basically like if you took the Hating Game but made it Christmassy, and I adored it. I loved it so much. I don't pay for Audible, but my brother does, so I just use his account to get Audible originals. And this was so fun. Like, honestly, this book is so funny because it has like these two characters and they have like inverse names of each other, and let me just explain. One is named Riley Kennedy and one is named Kennedy Riley, and they keep accidentally getting each other's emails, and then they have these like email exchanges back and forth, like sending each other their messages, and it's over Christmas, and like there's a little bit of like fake dating as well, and it was just so perfect, and I think it was really well paced for a novella, and I really loved it. Like, I don't like The Hating Game, but I loved this book. This book was fantastic. I gave it 3 stars. It was exactly what I needed, exactly what I wanted. Then I DNF'd a book, yikers, that was Hang the Moon. This is the sequel to Written in the Stars, I guess. I've had issues with this because I got the arc of it and then I wasn't very excited about it because I knew it wasn't queer. I DNF'd it. I liked it well enough, I guess, but I wasn't really like, it wasn't anything new, and I really did like, I liked the love interest, but the main girl, like, I just have such a problem with this trope in like romance, like books and things in general, is that like the female main character, or maybe even, it's typically the female main character, is like, I just swore off dating, like for no reason, right when the book starts, and then that's her issue, like the entire book. But like, why though? They're usually in their like mid-20s, like why'd you swear off dating, hun? So it was just like annoying, and I don't know, I don't love these books that much, and I didn't really love the first book. So like, and it wasn't Christmassy. That was like my main thing. I was like, this was supposed to be Christmassy, and it's not. It's not over like the summer. Like, who gives a shit? And then I read There's Something About Mary. This is another Audible original. This is a sequel or like companion to Nick Noel's Christmas playlist, which I read in August. So good. So good. And this is following the sister of Nick, I think, and she's trying to like take over the Christmas tree farm business, and it's so Christmassy and fun. Mistaken identity, like, kind of, but we have that trope of like these two people talking like anonymously and they don't know it, and they're like falling for each other in real life, and they're also falling for each other like anonymously. Like, it's really cute. I genuinely like love this series, and I think they're really sweet and super Christmassy, and I gave it 3.5 stars. Then I read a book called The Mistletoe Motive. This book I was so stoked for once I heard about it. This is my book, and it was. This is a novella. This was a COVE original, I believe. Someone released it like in paperback so that I can just hold it in my hands and like love it. Enemies to Lovers. It has demisexual and spectrum representation as well as diabetes representation. It's set in a bookstore. It's Christmassy. Can we tell why I love this book? This is so perfect. Like, I don't even know what to tell you about how perfect this was. It meant the absolute freaking world to me. Usually to have a demisexual main character and being a demisexual hoe, I was very excited about it. And the romance itself was like literally glorious. Like, so I just loved them together. I don't know, I gave it 5 stars. It was so good. I loved it a lot. Next up, I read The Matzo Ball. This is a Hanukkah romance, which is really fun. I really love the premise of the story. It's about a Christmas romance novelist and she's Jewish, but she writes under a pseudonym, and like her parents and her family don't know what she does. And she just loves Christmas so much. Editors or like her, you know, publishers are saying, you know what, like, we're kind of tired of Christmas romances. Like, can you write a Hanukkah romance? And she's like, oh shit, like what? So it's her trying to write this book as she is kind of reconnecting with this childhood kind of crush that she had, but like something happened. Both don't like each other anymore. Yeah, it's really cute. I really like the story of it. I don't think I loved like the romance as much, but I think that the plot was really interesting and I did like it. I gave it 3 stars. Then I read A Boy Called Christmas by Matt Haig. I'm so glad I read this because the Netflix movie adaptation came out this year and I was like, I need to read it ASAP. Also, the Netflix movie is fantastic. Really loved it. And this is essentially like I said this so many times. This is Santa's origin story. Basically just like, who was Father Christmas before he was Father Christmas? Like, whatever you want to call him. Papa Noel. Whatever you want. And it's so lovely and beautiful, and it has this lovely like kind of like fairy tale folklore kind of vibe to it, which I really love. I don't know, I thought it was so perfect. Like, really enjoyed it, and I think it was great, and I can't wait to read. I know there's like more books in the series. I'm not exactly sure who they're following or what they're talking about, but I am down to read them. I really love Matt Haig. I think he's great, and I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I read the 3rd Land of Stories book called A Grim Warning. I love these books, and I forgot how much I love them, and they really brought me out of kind of a reading slip I was going through, especially since towards the end of the year I really had to push through to finish my Goodreads challenge, which I did. This one kind of brought me back to life. I love these books. This is about twins Alex and Connor, who kind of stumble into this land of stories. They have this like fairy tale book, and they they discover their attachment to it goes beyond the page. Oh my god, that was a beautiful thing I just said. Yeah, and they like go into this fairy tale world and they have to solve its problems, and they realize they're more connected to it than they may think. It's great. So this is the third. I'm not going to tell you specifically what it's about, but it really kind of starts to up the ante, as usually kind of like third and fourth books do. I just watched the Hogwarts reunion. It's so good. Cried so much. And like the third books, they're, you know, coming of age more, and things start to get a little more dark and things start to change. So I think this definitely created or started that pivot in the world, and I think it's great. Also, I really recommend the audiobooks because Chris Culver is the author of these books. Not only does he have a beautiful angelic voice, he's a great actor, great writer, but he does a great job narrating these audiobooks. Then I read Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. This is the sequel to Children of Blood and Bone. I really love Children of Blood and Bone, and then when I picked this up I like kind of forgot what that was about, but I did quickly like understand what was going on again. It had a trope in it that I just really don't like. Me explaining this trope is kind of a spoiler, and I don't want to spoil it for you at all, but I will say that it's basically like when something happens in the first book and they just kind of undo it and say like, oh, just kidding, like that didn't happen, and it pisses me off. I mean, a lot of like shows and movies do this all the time. It's just like, oh, psych. So it did bother me. I don't know. Who even knows when the next book is coming out? I'm hoping that it just suffers from kind of like a middle book syndrome, that the next book will be good whenever it decides to grace us with its presence. Then I DNF'd another book. I DNF'd Twice Shy by Sarah Hochul. I'm very mad about this book because I literally DNF'd it at 75%. Like that is how far through I got of this book. I got very far through this book, and I just like, there was nothing, I don't want to say there was nothing that I enjoyed about it because that's really me. I just wasn't really invested in it at all, and I think it's a fun concept. Like these two people inherit this house and they have to work together to like fix it up. I don't know, like the romance just like, was it there? Like I don't even know. And then I read The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. This is a new book that a lot of people have been talking about, and I really liked this. I gave this 3 stars. I think it was sweet. It had that like, you know, twins swapping lives trope, and obviously shenanigans ensue. It also had some baking, had the baking trope as well. So it had some really fun things. I thought it was like a good Christmassy story. Do I think it was like super original? Like no, but like it was fun. It was basically like The Princess Switch, but a book. Amber Bunner's dying now. Like this is upsetting. Okay. Then I read the 4th Land of Stories book, which is called Beyond the Kingdoms. Again, like I said, I'm really not gonna tell you a lot about these books because it's the 4th book in like a 6-book series, but they just keep getting better. Like the stories like are just more ambitious every time and very exciting, and I like them a lot, so I give this 4 stars as well. Then I read The Love Hypothesis. Yes, I read it. I did it. This one took me a while because I was reading it and I really enjoyed it, but I was just feeling my kind of slump kicking in, especially for contemporary and contemporary romance. I was just getting so burnt out on them, and I was like, I love this book, and I know I'm gonna love this book, but I can't get through it. I pushed it off and I read it for my 24-hour readathon that I just did. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's great. I don't know. I think it's a great like fake dating kind of thing. I mean, it's kind of like sus, like how it starts. I think it also deals with some like interesting issues of like how women are treated differently in academic fields and things like that. But I think also like the romance was obviously really solid and really cute and like really steamy sometimes. So like it was fun. Yeah, I give that 4 stars. Really great. Then I read Wrapped Up in You by Talia Hibbert. This is another Kobo original. Kobo is just getting all the great Christmas romance. It's a novella by Talia Hibbert. I love Talia Hibbert. Who doesn't? Yeah, it's a Christmassy one. It's about, I think it's about this guy that's kind of been in love with his like, I think it's his best friend's sister for a really long time, and she kind of has had feelings for him as well, but she just got divorced a couple years ago, and like they kind of never really got together. So they finally do over Christmas, and it's a very like push and pull of him being like, I literally adore you and like you're my favorite person, like I worship the ground you walk on. And she's like, but like, do you? I think I like died for the love interest, like loved him a lot, like honestly all I want. The main character, like I could take her or leave her, you know. I gave it 3 stars. I think that's a great Christmas romance. There's a blizzard, like it's got all the things. There's a dog, like, you know. Then I read the Dragon Tapestry. I'm so happy I read this. This is by Kay O'Neill. I love their books. I love their books so much, especially the Dragon Society. I mean, come on, who doesn't? Cool to the Dragon Society, but it does feature characters from the prequel. I just loved it. These stinking books, they just do something different, you know. They just hit home. They're so sweet and like beautiful, and I just love them. 5 stars. Then I read Heartstopper Volume 4. I read a lot of graphic novels. I don't know why this was my favorite Heartstopper, but I think it was. It started, I mean, since like the 3rd book, they've been delving into heavier topics like self-harm and eating disorders. It was just so good, and just seeing these 2 characters grow and grow together is so beautiful. I love them so much. I love the other characters as well. Like this entire universe that Alice Oseman has created is just, it's just so warm and inviting. Really feel like you are friends with these characters and really know them very well, and I really Then I read another Kay O'Neill book. This is called AQUICORN COVE. This is about a girl who is kind of going back to this seaside town to help out her aunt after this kind of, I want to say it was a hurricane, kind of like destroyed their town, and she's trying to help rebuild it with her father. And she's also kind of facing some of her grief with the loss of her mother. Like she's returning to this place that she used to live with her mother, and like, and it also has these beautiful like sea creatures and like they're like magnificent and gorgeous, and like it's basically about, you know, protecting yourself and the coral reefs and being nice to nature and being careful and being considerate, and it's really beautiful. And there's like more information on the back about like coral reefs and stuff like that and how to protect them, and I don't know, it will make you just want to recycle. Oh, it's magical and beautiful. I love it. Snot Girl Volume 1. Oh my gosh, I don't know why I put off reading this for so long. This is so hard to explain because like it's about this fashion blogger. She lives in this like fashion blogger world where like all of her friends are very fake. She's Snot Girl because she has like these really bad allergies that she like can never like deal with. She, you know, meets a girl and she finally thinks that like she's found like a real friend, and then the girl like dies, and then she gets like caught up in the like investigation kind of, and like this mystery of like what happened to her. Really weird things are going on. I don't even know. I cannot wait to read the rest of these volumes. Like it is so strange. I mean, it's also like gorgeous. Like the people the art style is so pretty, and give it 4 stars. Really liked it. Like super interesting concept. I really liked it. Then I read Girl Made of Stars. I have a really hard time talking about this book because it does deal with rape and sexual assault, and it is about a girl whose brother is accused of raping his girlfriend, who is her best friend, and it's basically about all of that and how through this the main character is also like kind of uncovering some memories that she has of some other things that she went through that she kind of had dissociated. It was a beautiful story. It's really short. It's really important. Obviously it's really hard to read, but I think it's a really beautiful story and it handles the subject matter very well, and it made me cry a lot, and I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Would Like to Meet. This is a rom-com book. It is about our main character Evie, who has wanted to be a screenwriter for a long time. She's kind of settled for being an agent, kind of work with this really pompous guy who has to write a rom-com movie, and he doesn't believe in them. It's literally my job to get you to write this movie or else I will get fired. She ends up getting roped into basically convincing him that rom-coms can be real and that meet cutes can happen. So she has to go on all these meet cutes and try out all these different tropes, and it's so fun. Like it's so hilarious, but it's also like 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 I love the romance in here a lot. I genuinely like really love this book. It was so fabulous. Like I give it 4 stars. It was fan-freaking-tastic. Really had me like waiting until the last freaking pages, but it was really great. I really recommend this one. Haven't heard anyone talk about it. It's also British, so really love it. Then I read Ways to Make Sunshine by Renée Watson. I read another Renée Watson book, which I'll talk about. This is like an early chapter book, so it's really hard. It's really hard for me to talk about because obviously I'm not the target audience, but I love this book. I think it was so fantastic. Like I loved it so much. It was so sweet. It's about a girl named Ryan who is just kind of like, you know, going through life, and she's having a lot of like changes in her life. Her family is moving and downsizing. Her father is like just kind of was laid off and now is like employed by a job that's not paying as much as his old job, and she's kind of like trying to comprehend this kind of very adult world around her when she's only, you know, like in 2nd grade, and she's dealing with like cool things with like friends and her older brother and like things like that. One of my favorite things about this book is that parents are always saying like, live up to your name, like we named you this for a reason, like we want you to, you know, be your name. They say it a lot better. Very sweet, and I really liked that sentiment. I gave it 4 stars. It was really good. The other Renée Watson book I read was called Piece Me Together. This is a young adult. It's pretty short. It is about a main character who goes to this really great school on scholarship, and she really wants to travel. Like her goal is to go on this immersion to Spain, and she works really hard and she really wants this, and that's like her goal. Instead of getting like auctioned or like placed into this program, she gets like this mentor, kind of like someone who graduated from the school beforehand, and she gets into this program. She meets this young woman who is kind of taking her under her wing. Our main character is very kind of like resentful of that, and she really doesn't know what she can learn from this person, and it's just really great. I mean, it's a story, you know, about privilege and about expectations and stereotypes, and she's kind of fighting a lot for her voice and for, you know, her right to not just like have an education, but just like have the educational experience that she wants. She's incredibly smart and driven, but she's not always given a seat at the table. She's also struggling a lot with her identity, whether or not she can align more with her friends at this really privileged private school or her friends from, you know, the town that she lives in. And so it's a really great story. It's really impactful. I think it's really well written. I gave it 4 stars. Great time. And then I read When Night Breaks. This is the 2nd book and the finale to the Kingdom of Cards series. It's a sequel to Where Dreams Descend, and I liked this. I didn't think I liked it as much as the first book. The first book definitely had like the vibes that I wanted. This one was a little more confusing. It's very like, I don't want to say like open-ended, but it was kind of like metaphorical and like very like symbolic, and we kind of were exploring this world that we kind of got a taste of it at the end of the first book, but not really. I mean, a lot of things changed, there's some fun things going on, but like to me it wasn't as great as the first book. I think this is one that if I reread like the first book and then the second book, I maybe would like it more. Having said, I give it 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite. I definitely liked the first book more. Last book I read was Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. I finally finished it. I needed to finish books and I did it. So there's something about this book. Like the first couple hundred pages I was not invested, and I was like, I might DNF of this. Like genuinely, like what the frick happened, Brandy Sandy? Once I got past a certain point, I was like, oh shit, like I need to know what happened. There was a switch and I couldn't stop reading it. I don't know. I genuinely like don't know what happened there. Yeah, I mean it was slow in the beginning and then picked up, and the third book is already out? Is Titanic already out? But I think there's gonna be 4 books now. I really don't know, because first it was supposed to be duology, and then like Brandy Sandy doesn't know how to stop writing. I want to see that man's manuscripts because they must be so fucking long. It was a good time. Like I said, slow in the beginning, but it picked up more. This world just keeps expanding. It can get kind of convoluted at times, I think, with some battle scenes, but like I said, it picked up a lot more and it's got a lot more interesting with like politics, and even like the battle scenes got more exciting. So I give this like 3.5 stars. I will continue on with the series. That being said, I didn't DNF it, and I'm glad I didn't. So those are all of the books that I read in November and December. I need to stop doing I need to stop doing multi-month wrap-ups, because I read like over 20 books in December and I read like 15 books in, like, who told me to let me know what you read in those 2 months, or if you read any of these books and want to let me know your thoughts, or if you just want to say hey, hi, hello, how are you in the comments. With that being said, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.